And we are live with another episode of BS Busters. And this one's a little bit special because we're talking about spiritual successors. But before we go any further into the topic and covering the news of the week and all that fun stuff, we're going to have our panelists introduce themselves. Who wants to go first? Well, we'll let the lady go first.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. This is Joy Moonstar. Welcome you to the BS Busters, and we are about to have some interesting topics come up tonight, I think.
Yeah. And of course, we have
hello,
always faithful. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, this is Pedophile from Philly Facts, and you may not see it, but I'm currently fighting against my own mouse that seems to be lagging a bit most of the time.
You might need a new mouse.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. And of course, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters, where,
we try to work with what we get, and if there's BS around, we have to try to clean it.
Yeah. Ghostbuster style. We strap on our proton packs, but we don't catch ghosts. No. We catch heaping piles of bullshit. and the Mr. Peck of video gaming is trying to open our containment unit, but we're not going to let him.
That's a little much.
And if it does, it's going to make us cry like an anime nerd on prom night.
Oh!
No, we're not going to cry like an anime nerd on prom night. We just make fun of him. It's like, is it true? It's true, Mayor. This man has no dick. That's from the first movie. Anyway, so before we get any further, I guess we can talk about some of the news of the week. So go to our faithful...
well, there's not really much video game news lately. I only have one that came out just recent.
Oh, there's tons of video game news. There's David Cage's, some of his games are coming out on PC.
Wait a second.
Yeah, but that's from last week. So
no, it was from earlier this week. It was from 5 days ago. It was from Tuesday.
I was going to say, isn't this the same variant that tried to make a movie on a video game console?
Actually, David Cage did make a movie, and it's called here. Let me look up David Cage's movie because I've seen this movie.
Please don't let it be 1886.
No, it's not. It's actually it's a what the fuck movie, but I've actually seen it here. Let me find this film.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a movie. Believe it or not.
Fact or fiction?
Well, it's believe it or not, the movie is called let's see here.
Might be easier to use the name to look it up.
It's called, I'm looking up the name. Okay, it's called Immortal, all right? And, yeah. Immortal is based on this trilogy called the Nicopole trilogy. It's a French manga, graphical. It's a graphic novel. But this movie got made because of David Cage. Like he put a lot of energy into getting this shit made. And basically the film is it's this, actually the film is not that bad. It's one of those films where it's like, man, if only they'd had more money to get it done. The French video game studio that helped produce much of the cinematics is Quantic Dream. I knew David Cage was involved with this. I was like, yeah, I've seen the movie he made. It was pretty bad. So basically, it's the film takes place in New York City in 2095, where genetically altered humans live side by side with unaltered men and women. Okay, and if you've ever seen this movie, it's kind of weird. It's not terrible within and of itself. It's just really, really weird. Think of it as kind of like a live action Aeon Flux, but
Does it include the typical David Cage tropes that we see from his games?
Well, just graphically, it's graphic. Like, okay, there's some stuff in the movie that is like, what the, like, I mean, part of that could be because it's a French movie. But anyway, it's a really weird film. But anyway, David Cage, as we all know, is the here are his credits: Omicron, the Nomad Soul. That's actually a pretty good little game. Then there's Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit, which is, these are basically adventure games, right? Then he does Heavy Rain, and that's like his big claim to fame is Heavy Rain, right?
What about Indigo Prophecy?
He was with another studio when he did that.
I see.
That's not his, but, like he's really like his big stuff. Like Indigo Prophecy is more of like niche stuff,
Yeah.
He also did the music for Time Cop. Not the movie, the video game. There's a video game called Time Cop. He did the music for Hardline, which is an FMV-based video game. He did the music for Detroit Become Human. Of course, what his true masterpiece is? Cheese Catastrophe starring Speedy Gonzalez.
Excuse me.
True.
What did I hear?
Cheese Catastrophe starring Speedy Gonzalez. I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, a lot of his old games that were not made by Quantic Dream, I'm guessing, I guess they've reverted back to, I guess, him or the people who originally made it. So they're putting it up on PC. So get your hands on it. This is cool because, it's always good when old games, people can go back and play old games, even if they are old adventure games. I got into a hearty discussion on Discus with someone about.
Oh, I know who you're referring to. Gagarin?
Oh, I'm not gonna mention names, but I got into a hearty discussion with someone about how there needs to be a balance in modern gaming between pure gameplay and narrative driven gameplay.
Our main owner of the channel says that you're trying to argue where there is no argument to be had, since he wasn't making an argument in the slightest.
Yeah, I wasn't really making an argument either. I was just simply saying that there needs to be a balance between the two things, and then the guy would basically come back with this massive fucking 5-6 paragraph essay about how there shouldn't be a balance. I'm like, but I mean, financially, if you look at the games, like, okay, I love Platinum Games. You cannot argue that Platinum Games makes games for gamers. Like, they make games that are almost purely gameplay driven. But I mean, I love their games, but like, I'm a niche consumer of gaming, right? Like, I'm an old school gamer. I like games like that. The vast majority of games that do well now, unfortunately, are games that are either heavily narrative driven or a balance between the two of having a good narrative and having gameplay. Like, purely gameplay driven games don't do all that well. I mean, you have like your exceptions like Minecraft, but Minecraft is more like, what builds that game up is that you have, the community building shit and sharing levels and all that stuff. Like, gameplay, is the creativity, but games that are just pure gameplay really, I mean, maybe the MOBA games, like your Overwatches, your Fortnites,
or the majority of Nintendo games.
That's the thing. Like Nintendo games are even starting to get more balance between narrative and gameplay.
Which I'm gonna have to say this. I usually say that
I would have to disagree, especially on the Mario titles.
Well, I mean, when I said an exception to that is Mario, because really the story for Mario games are kind of throwaway.
I was gonna say that I'm mostly a gameplay first, because if you have a bad gameplay experience, why why do you want to go on with it to try to find the story? That's the thing that bugs me. And while it is great to have a perfect balance between gameplay and narrative, you need a reason to try to go on with the narrative. That's why I would put gameplay over story.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it depends on the genre. Like, okay, if you're playing like a arcade, if you're playing like a racing game, like no one cares about the story in Mario Kart. Like it's non-existent, really. Like you're there.
This is from the
same
person that loves Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, but then you have the exception of that, which is something like Diddy Kong Racing. Which I mean, you know, like for me, I like story in video games because it gives me more of an impetus to go through the shit that's boring. But this is coming from someone who loves RPGs. And here's what people need to understand about RPGs. 70% of the shit that goes on in an RPG is boring, repetitive tasks that if you don't have a good story to motivate you to go through it, you'll hate that game after a while. All right. If Chrono Trigger didn't have a great story, those battles would get boring. Kind of like that's kind of like what drags down a game like Final Fantasy 13.
I thought you would make the joke of Final Hallway 13.
He argued that RPGs are in general boring.
Well, that's his opinion. I mean, that's what I'm saying. RPGs are kind of a boring experience, which is why, because you have battles, which once you get powered up, battles get kind of repetitive. So that's kind of a boring, repetitious thing. But what keeps you moving is that the story. It's like, okay, well, or exploration. Like, okay, what's on this next horizon? What's the next town I can get? How can I get better weapons? Unlock new abilities, become more powerful. Like that grind and growth is almost feeds in on itself. Different genres of games need gameplay more than others. Like I said, Tetris doesn't need a story. Tetris is just, it's pure gameplay. Pong doesn't need a story. Breakout doesn't need a story. Pac-Man is unusual because Pac-Man actually had a story.
Mini story, but a story.
Well, arguably in the video game in the National Museum of Video Game History, Pac-Man is considered one of the first games to have a proper story. Well, cutscenes. Okay, with telling a story, which is amazing because up until that point, you just had, well, some shit happened, go get some points. That's missile command. Someone's trying to blow up your city. Blow up those missiles before they hit your city. Defender. Some shit's trying to take over the world. Blow it up with your jet fighter. Okay, whatever. And then you get Pac-Man. You're in a warehouse packing shit, and there's ghosts and shit, and they're trying to kill you. Kind of weird, but I'll take it. But yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think that I think there's a balance between the two. I don't think it should be all just pure gameplay unless it's a genre that is very much heavily pure gameplay. Or even better, you just take it on a case-by-case basis, like genre by genre by genre. Because, different genres, like no one has ever played a racing game and said, what's my motivation for driving?
Usually that is come first, get some gold or cash if it's one of those games, and try to improve your ride.
Yeah, and I'm saying this as someone who back in the day played a lot of a lot of Top Gear. I played the shit out of Top Gear back in the day. And I was like, in Top Gear, it doesn't really have a story mode. Like you're racing, you earn, you get to you place, you get money, you upgrade your car so that you can race at a higher level, get place higher, make more money so that you can move on to the next race and repeat ad infinitum and buy new cars, buy better parts. It's actually kind of boring, really. But I like Top Gear games, so I'm just one of those people. I'm a sucker for Top Gear.
So, anything else regarding David Cage?
I mean, those games are coming. I guess if I remember correctly from the article, they're coming to I want to say PC, but I think they're going to be on. If I remember correctly, it's going to be first. It's going to be on the Epic Game Store first. I think eventually it'll come to GOG maybe, and maybe eventually Steam. So, I mean, you'll be able to play these old games. And like I said, I'm all for being able to play old-ass games.
Mm-hmm. And before I forget, I know that this is probably weird that I'm bringing this up, but I was remembering that I heard a news article bit that said that even though Epic is not doing what people are saying, it still kind of brings the question of developer versus gamer issue come up.
Yeah, they are. I mean, look, listen.
So if anything, the good news is they're not sending your data to China, which is kind of comforting.
Yeah,
I think. But still, they're bringing hostility against people by saying that we're moving to Epic because they're going to give us money. And if you're not going to buy our game, tough beep, you're going to have to wait.
And the way I feel about it is that's okay. I'm a Nintendo gamer. I know something about waiting. I mean, look.
I feel sorry for the PC gamers now because now they know how us Nintendo gamers feel.
I'm a Nintendo gamer. I know about waiting. And, I mean, I've always had multiple consoles. So, I mean, if it's not on one platform, I'll go someplace else. Unless the platform basically pisses me off, which is why I've never owned an Xbox system ever. And I don't plan on getting one.
It's a good thing I'm one of the more patient people because I've seen games that were quote unquote unable to play on the Nintendo systems come to Nintendo. And Pinky could make a joke, and Pinky could say that I think Pinky or Red Fox, when you said that now that there's no it was somebody on Twitter that we actually watch, I think. They said now that this game's on the Switch, there's virtually no excuses.
Yeah, and they'll still manage to find one.
I'm just gonna make the joke that's saying that they're running to the Nintendo excuse restaurant and they're probably overfilling it.
Move the goalpost shit. They don't just move the goalpost with a Nintendo. Like, it's always something. Like, here's the thing. If they don't want to put their game on the system, just say we don't want to put it on the system or we're not looking at that option at this time. Don't feed us this bullshit ass line. Well, the system's not powerful enough to handle it. I think it's been powerful enough to handle it for years.
Nintendo systems have proven people wrong.
Consistently we've heard people say shit that didn't make sense. Like, people are like, well, the mini discs for the Nintendo for the GameCube made it impossible for Square Enix to put their Final Fantasy games on the GameCube. Here's why that's bullshit. Because there are games like Skies of Arcadia, which is a huge game. That game is fucking huge. All right.
They multi-disc it?
No, it's one disc. A massive world that you're flying around on an airship finding shit, and it's one disc. Tales of Symphonia has two discs because there's two worlds that, like, there's Tethiala and Silverant, so there's like two worlds to explore. But still, two discs, not really, oh man, that's impossible. I think people are just dicks. I think people believe that shit because they're like, well, these people are professionals. Look, these people are not saying this shit to be helpful. They're not giving you this information.
They're trying to give the middle finger to anybody that is a part of Nintendo's culture.
Well, no, they're covering their ass because, like, most of these decisions come from the higher ups. Okay, higher ups say, okay, look, we're not like the amount of money we're going to spend to port this game over, and then to have it sell on a Nintendo thing, it's going to be competing against Nintendo first party IPs. We're not going to be able to compete. Okay, fair enough. Or they just don't want to do it. They just don't want to.
They don't want to do it, or they really cannot touch Nintendo's IPs on a 10-foot pole. But you want.
I mean, that's part of it, but sometimes they just don't want to do it. I mean, because there's certain Nintendo IPs that I don't give a fuck about. Like, even if, like, I don't care. Like, P-Cross. Mario's P-Cross can go eat a bag of dicks, as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a shit about that game.
And Chibi Robo, now that they killed it off.
Actually, I like the first Chibi Robo because I had that on GameCube. I thought it was pretty good. Like, the problem with Chibi Robo is that each iteration, they kept on making it shittier and more casual, for lack of a better word, which kind of made it worse, in my opinion. Like, the first Chibi Robo was really kind of complicated. Like, you basically, you collected this stuff that you used in order to get happiness points and stuff like that you used to upgrade Chibi. And that's all you did, so that you could basically make the lives of this family better. And that was nice. It was kind of like Nintendo's answer to Mr. Mosquito, except Mr. Mosquito was an asshole, and Chibi Robo was just trying to help these people out. Like, it was a nice little thing. And then they did Chibi Robo for the DS, and that game kind of sucked. And then they did Chibi Robo for the 3DS, which is just a fucking platformer. And I'm like, each iteration, aside from the first one, you've made kind of more casual and shittier. So, I mean, I personally didn't like that. That's why I kind of, I bought those games, but I'm not, like, enthralled with them. Not like the first one. I mean, like, not every Nintendo IP is going to be, hot fire.
Yeah, but if anything, a good portion of them are pretty good. So
yeah, I mean, I'd say a good 85%. 85% are pretty good. Like, they range from being excellent to pretty good.
I say, on a conservative tone, I say 90.
I mean, the reason I say 85 is because there's some that kind of started out strong and kind of towards the end got a little limp, like Paper Mario. Started out strong, towards the end got a little limp. Star Fox started out strong. Star Fox.
I was going to say Star Fox is a mixed bag for me because it's going up and down and up and down.
And then Dino Planet, which isn't even a Star Fox. That game would have been so much better had it not been a Star Fox game, because they wedged in Star Fox into it, and it kind of brings the whole game down a little bit.
Up and down.
And then Star Fox Armada for the GameCube, which, I mean, it's not a bad game within and of itself.
Star Fox Assault, actually.
Yeah, Star Fox Assault. Star Fox Armada is the one on the DS. Star Fox Assault.
It's Star Fox Command.
I don't know why I keep on saying. I guess because, like, there was this code game they were making, the Star Fox game, and they were gonna call it Armada. But anyway, like, the one for the GameCube, like the flying levels were good, the ground levels were good, the on foot levels were ass.
I was about to say, it's short, near vehicle.
And you've got Star Fox fans asking for a follow-up to Star Fox Assault, even though they were previously asking for a retread of Star Fox 64, since that's supposed to be the quote-unquote best way to play a Star Fox game.
Well, Trinell83 says there's still multiple discs on the other systems at the time of the PS2 and the Xbox. That's true. There were multi-disc games for the PS2 and the Xbox. Well, I mean, here's what I think. If they want to bring Star Fox back, like, Nintendo has to make a choice, okay? They can either go down the route of trying to make Star Fox into this epic, orchestral knockoff of Star Wars, which is what it's become, and it's kind of gone downhill since they keep on trying to force that square peg into a round hole. Star Fox at its core should be...
I was about to say, Star Wars has been going downhill recently, and if Star Fox is going that route too, abandon ship.
Like, personally,
I would disagree, Joel. They would say that Star Wars has been going downhill since the late 90s.
You mean the prequel trilogy? Yeah. Well, but
no. I mean,
difference
as of the sequel trilogies.
Here's the
So you're saying that the prequel trilogies are actually good then?
No, we're saying that they're better than the current trilogy that they're working on. Because The Force Awakens was A New Hope, just done not as well. And The Last Jedi, man, fuck that movie. And like they came out with a trailer like, hey, look, it's Rise of the Skywalker. It's like, I don't give a fuck. I really like, this is the first Star Wars film where I was like, I don't give a fuck about this movie. I'm not even gonna go watch it in the theater.
Some fans you turned out to be, guys.
Yeah, after 8 movies, yeah, I'm the person who's not a fan. After 8 movies, 2 Ewok films, buying the silver and gold editions on VHS and DVD, having numerous play sets, all the Lego Star Wars games except for the Force Awakens one, because that one was ass. But I'm not a fan. Yeah, you're right. I'm not a fan at all. I have a Yoda doll in my house that if you
well, you're a gatekeeper
if you walk in front of it, it says all types of awesome little things. I even have a Yoda puppet in my house that you can stick your hand up its ass.
And didn't you previously say that the Star Wars franchise was never good and that you preferred Star Trek?
But no, I never said that. I said
I remember you. I remember you saying
I prefer Star Trek over Star Wars, but I never said I wasn't a Star Wars fan. I just said I prefer Star Trek. How's it going, Kenoshi?
Doing all right. How are you?
Oh, we're fine. We were just talking about. I was just
back on top. Get back on topic, please.
Yeah, I'm just saying that they need to make the next. If they make another Star Fox game, they need to go back to how it originally was. An on the rail shooter with awesome rocking kick-ass soundtrack, blowing shit the fuck. Maybe as a nice hook, add environmental destruction. So like at the end of the level, you get money for how many enemies you destroyed and stuff. But if you blew up some buildings, you get money subtracted. General Pepper's like, yeah, here's 50 million galaxy credits. Oh, that's cool. Minus 25 million because you blew up half the damn building. Oh. Yeah, I can't upgrade my R-Wing. That's all I want. I really because they keep on trying to tell this epic story and it just keeps on failing. So stop, and give us a different villain than Andros. Look, I like Andros. He'll always be one of the most badass villains in Nintendo fandom. But please, I'm tired of Andros or Andros.
It's a miserable situation. It's miserable.
We had the Aproids in Star Fox Assault and some other villain in Star Fox.
Yeah, but even that boss kind of had some Andros leanings. It just gets stop recycling the same type of gameplay.
Then might as well tell Nintendo to stop using Bowser.
Meister 20, I'll stick with the old EU, but they've actually updated how his attack patterns are. Like in Star Fox, it's I swear, half of those games, the final boss fight is you're blowing up a giant face. That's just, come on, man. There's got to be the original. None of the Bowser fights have been the same except in the new Super Mario Brothers games. But aside from that. The original Bowser, you had to run across a bridge, and if you had the fire flower, you could take him out with the fire flower, or you could jump over him or run under him, and then hit that axe, and it would knock the bridge down. He'd fall to his death. Okay.
And the Ganon battles are also different as well.
Yeah. It's
Yet you want him to be replaced by a new villain.
Who?
The Ganon.
Ganon? No, I never said that.
I remember. I also beg you remember you saying
that.
No,
I never said that. I said it doesn't feel like Zelda if you don't have Ganon. Now, I said Andros. If they keep on using Andros like bosses, that gets old as fuck. And don't say you remember me saying that because people make false memories all the time, and I think that's what you're doing.
No, because I remember it.
Unless you can prove to me that you have an eidetic memory and you don't forget anything, I'm not going to use, well, I remember you saying that, because I could say anything and I could say, I remember you saying something and it would, no. But anyway, yeah, I think they need to switch it up. Either that or go balls to the wall and just throw everything on the wall and try and cater to everybody. Make it like a Star Fox Ultimate, where it's got like a story mode for those people who want that Star Wars experience. And then you've got like an arcade mode for people who are like old school like me, you know, on rails, blowing shit the fuck up. I think that could work. I don't know where they could go from there. Weister20 says, I'll stick with the old extended universe. Yeah, they got rid of the old extended universe because in one of the stories, Chewbacca died because a moon fell on him, allegedly. I can't remember. I think overall the extended universe made more sense because people had years to parse things out and make things that were somewhat logical. Whereas now they threw all that out and just threw some shit together, and they were like, "Extended universe."
Well, isn't that what the old expanded universe also was? Because there were some really awful stories from that.
I mean, you know, not everything was going to be gold, but I'd say 70% of it was worth saving. Like 70% of it was worth keeping, and 30% of it needed to be thrown out. Like there's shit they threw out that actually would have made the current Star Wars extended universe more interesting. Like they got rid of the fact that Hutts used to be hermaphrodites, which was kind of an interesting little aside because it meant that, like, you know, when they killed Jabba, Jabba had a son. Oh shit. You know, Jabba had a father. Oh shit. They threw out the entire young Han Solo trilogy, which is actually a really interesting story. I would tell anyone to read it. They threw out the entire Lando Calrissian extended universe stuff, which some of it was really fucking interesting. Now, can't have that. So, I mean, you know, and not to mention, I mean, let's just keep it real. Since they threw out all the extended universe stuff, it's not like the current movies are really doing all that well. Yeah, they made money, but they've divided the fan base, and they can't sell the merchandise. In Star Wars, look, the movies are just a vehicle to sell merchandise. That's where the real.
I was going to say, how stuck is the merchandise? I mean,
let me put it this way: I went to a Walmart and I went to the clearance section, and there was like baskets of Reys and Finns and Kylo Rens and Snokes and whoever that asshole Imperial Guard.
I was going to say,
I know
because
they're not called the Empire, but it's basically the
I was going to say, Big Lots. I saw a whole aisle full of those things.
Meanwhile, the Jurassic World toys are almost empty.
Really, people are buying that. Well, I mean, they're dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are pretty much. Kids will always buy dinosaurs. But anyway, yeah, it's horrific. It's fucking horrific. So, you know, like when you can't sell your merchandise for something, because that's where the real money's at. And that's why Disney bought LucasArts, was for the merchandising.
For the male demographic.
No, they wanted the merchandising. I mean, that's why they wanted that IP. They wanted to be able to sell the toys and the video games and the licensing. And thus far, that's pretty much failed because, you know, they gave the video game license to EA. EA fucked that up.
Twice.
Well, they canceled a whole bunch of games, and now they're barely getting out.
Speaking of which, that really leads us. That trails us to other gaming news, the reveal of Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, now let's, by show of who is excited about this game. Seriously. Not facetiously, not joking. Who is legitimately excited about Jedi Fallen Order?
Not me. I'm still skeptical because it's EA.
No, neither am I.
Creak, 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 creak. I think the crickets in the back or enthusiastic about it.
This game couldn't do anything for me. Like literally, like I haven't played a good Star Wars game in years. I haven't played a good Star Wars game. Like the last good Star Wars game I played was
Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. Before that, it was KOTOR 1 and 2. Before that, it was Rogue Squadron. No. Shit. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2. Those were good. Not the EA ones, the visceral game ones. I played those on PS2. Those are great games. See what else? Before that, Rogue Squadron 2 and 3. Sorry, 2 and 3. Yeah, 2 and 3 on the GameCube. Rogue Squadron 1. If anyone says Shadows of the Empire and Pod Racer, those games suck. Well, Pod Racer is okay once you get used to the controls, but Shadows of the Empire, that is a bad game. That game is bad. And of course, the Super Star Wars trilogy on the SNES, Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi. Those three games are good. But those are the last good Star Wars games I played, and I mean that's literally years ago, right? That was 2 gens ago. I played a good Star Wars game. Notice I haven't played a good Star Wars game for the last 2 gens. And no,
Ouch.
The Force Awakens is not a good. The Force Unleashed. Those 2 games suck. They're ass. They're ass-tastic. And I know what some people are going to say, but so Jedi Fallen Order could be good, could be terrible.
Well, they did say no microtransactions, but
it's EA. Like, you know what that means? That means this game is being done on a shoestring budget, so all it has to do is sell like a certain amount, and it's gonna make its budget back. Because EA likes putting microtransactions in everything. So yeah, I have, like, I don't trust EA with the Star Wars license, and I don't know why Disney made an exclusivity deal with Star Wars for Star Wars with EA, because of all the companies to do an exclusivity deal with. It's like no one learned the lesson of FIFA and Madden. I mean, in the NFL.
What are you guys talking about now? I had to step away.
we're talking about Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, I was just lamenting why would Disney make an exclusivity deal. I mean, I know why, because either way they're going to get their money. Because EA is going to have to pay a certain amount of money to Disney, even if they don't make a game. Disney's still getting paid, and if they do release a game and it makes like a certain amount of money, they get extra money on top of the licensing fee. I understand that, but just in terms of putting out a quality product, EA is just not who I would do an exclusivity deal with.
Yeah.
Considering their history and how many other choices there are.
Well, I mean, the last 2 gens. I would say during the 6th gen, EA still made good games. 5th gen, they still made good games. 4th gen,
I was about to say, I wonder who could beat EA, which can be about a big list.
But for the last 2 gens, 2.5 gens, 7, 8, 8.5, like it's been like, I don't trust EA to make a Star Wars. I don't trust EA with the exclusivity deals for anything.
You know how I feel about EA?
It's a miserable situation. This is miserable. Miserable.
Probably fuck them. That's how I feel about EA. Fuck them. And I know some people are going to get angry. They're going to be like, but I like Madden. I'm not saying you shouldn't like Madden. I'm saying you should be worried about a company that has no competition. That's worrisome. Yeah. It's worrisome because if you have no competition, you have no reason to do better. Okay, you have no reason to make anything better.
Is that guy coming?
Yeah.
Somebody's knocking at the door. Now.
Is that your wife?
Okay.
No, I muted him. But anyway, but yeah, people need to stay out of people's stuff. That's all I'm saying. Okay, they need to, like, people need to stop being so, well, EA, like, as gamers, we give the benefit of the doubt to companies who haven't earned it. Like, Nintendo's earned a lot of benefit of the doubt. But even with some of the stuff they've been doing, I'm like,
Yeah, we have to admit that
down a little bit.
They slipped. We admit that they slipped up at times, but at least they try to not do it badly.
Yeah, I mean, but EA has no benefit of the doubt, like none. Like let me put it this way, okay? For those of you who are in school, okay, let's say hypothetically speaking, you had A's and B's. You can afford, if you have A's and B's as your average, you can afford to get a C or a D, like one C or D. And your overall GPA isn't going to take that much of a hit. But if all you had are D's and C's, you can't afford an F because you're fucked if you get an F, right?
Yeah. And
that's the thing that, like, EA is like C's and D's right now. Well, mostly D's, not even C's. D's. Like, and you're going to trust them? Well, man, they won't fail this next semester. I bet you they will. They're going to repeat the 7th grade. So yeah, I don't trust EA. I don't trust them. Let's see, we got some other news here going on Discus, because Discus is useful. The Evercade.
I was about to mention that, actually.
Yes, the Evercade. It's gonna get into that niche that the 3DS is abandoning, I guess. Well, actually, no, it's retro games, so it's not even the 3DS. I'm guessing it's going for that Game Boy Advance. You know what? No, I think this is for? I think this is for people who want to play old video games, but not resort to a bootleg
system.
Yeah, a Chinese bootleg system.
It's supposed to play 8-bit and 16-bit retro games.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, like TurboGrafx 16, maybe Master System, maybe Sega Genesis, maybe Atari Jaguar, although why you would want Atari Jaguar games, I don't know. There's only like 2 good games on the Atari Jaguar. No, that's 64-bit, Atari Lynx. There's only 2 good games on the Atari Lynx. And one is California Games, and that came to a lot of other consoles. So, yeah. So, what do you think? Do you think this has a chance?
I say 5% if EA's touching it.
Considering it's only consists of 8-bit and 16-bit retro games, I doubt it'll succeed. It'll probably go the way of the Sojo games.
I'm gonna be the contrarian here and say that it could actually be a viable little handheld, as long as they keep the costs low. And if they keep the costs low and they have like something that lets you play, if they let you use something like an EverDrive or something like that to download your games and put it on there, to give you a nice way to play your NES, your NES, SNES, Master System, Mega Drive games, I think that could work. TurboGrafx 16, stuff like that. I mean, the thing is like there aren't a lot. Like the problem with a retro handheld is that there aren't a lot. Like, okay, 8 and 16-bit. So basically, the 8 and 16-bit age is like 3rd and 4th gen. So you're talking basically the Master System, the the NES, aka Famicom, maybe the Atari 7800, maybe maybe the 7800, and then you got the SNES, Mega Drive, aka Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx 16. That's it. Like I don't know how many people are interested in, like, a lot of people want like SNES retro gaming. A lot of people still want Sega Genesis retro gaming. But I mean, there's other avenues for that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's legitimate reason, there's legitimate ways, and then there's ways that are iffy but understandable to only those that want it at a 5-finger discount.
Well, I mean, okay, legitimately, you can get your hands on a SNES Mini, SNES Classic, or an NES Classic, right? Those are legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go with a Chinese clone console for 1/3 of the price and get shitty emulation, but you can still play it. You know, Sega has had at-game shit out for years. I mean, for years, but no one wants those, so fuck that. There's a more expensive option, like I think the $149.99 Sega thing that's coming out later on this year. That's like really high quality. So I mean, there's options. I mean, the only retro thing we haven't really seen is a TurboGrafx 16 collection, but you'd have to go through Konami for that, and Konami is just all types of fucked up. So who knows?
If you're going game wise, they're effed up. If you're going card game wise, they're effing up.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. You know,
take your poison.
Yeah, unless it's a pachinko machine or a one-handed bandit like slot machine, Konami don't give a fuck. So, I mean, like I said, I'm the one who's going to give it a chance. I'll give it a 50% chance if they can have something. They haven't really given a lot of information about it. Like they haven't given a hardware information, like what's running the system. Like from what I can understand,
I was going to say that if anything,
price point.
Yeah, price point.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not sure of what the price point is or how they're going to do certain things. So that's what's keeping it at under 10% for me.
Yeah. And finally, before we get into the main topic, this is just kind of an aside. Japanese audiences dislike the Dragon Quest movie trailer.
Yeah, we already discussed that from our last podcast.
Okay, then. So we don't have to go too in depth about it. So I guess we can get to the main topic. The main topic is spiritual successors. These are games that basically came out. A game came out. Maybe it was a short-lived franchise. Maybe it had 2 or 3 games. And then another game comes out that shares a lot of the same DNA as that game, but updated for the next generation. It is what we like to call a spiritual successor. Not a direct sequel, but a spiritual successor to that game. Case in point, weaponized, that weird 3D pixelized game that's basically kind of like aping Advance Wars that came out for the Switch.
Yeah,
it's basically the spiritual
Wargroove.
successor. No, it's not Wargroove. It's got better graphics than Wargroove. Wargroove is almost like it's like fantasy Advance Wars, but it's got fantasy units. This game is like Advance Wars, except it uses a 3D pixelized art style. Like
I know what game you're referring to, but I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, I forgot the name too. But it's literally it's Advance Wars, but like updated for a modern age with like a really awesome looking graphical fidelity. It's like a spiritual successor to Advance Wars. Like if Intelligent Systems would actually give a chance to doing an Advance Wars
Part 3.
this is what I would imagine them doing. And it's actually pretty damn awesome.
And to go in the reverse direction, Mega Man had to be retired. Mega Man, quote unquote, retired at 10. And then we saw what happened with another number.
Mighty Number 9.
And that was so terrible that woke the original up and made him do 11.
Yeah, but to be fair, Mighty Number 9 within and of itself is not that bad of a game. It's just it was not well marketed by Concept and Keiji Inafune.
I was about to say, is that before or after the bugs you're talking about it being okay?
It's really not that bad. I mean, like, okay, let me put it this way. The game is a C grade game. It's mediocre. It's not like, oh my God, this is the worst game ever. It's not that bad. It really isn't. It's not great. It's not like I said, it's a mediocre game. It's in the middle. It's of medium quality. Okay, it's not the best game ever. It's not the worst game ever. People who on YouTube and doing video reviews say this is the worst game I've ever played. First of all, how many fucking games have you played if this is the worst game you've ever played? And second of all,
I'm saying this because I was checking how bad the development line is. Like, seriously, you're trying to promote other things before this game came out.
Yeah, but that's not the game. That's not on the game. That's Concept, the art team behind it, because they didn't even develop the game. Inti Creates developed the game, and like Inti Creates, if you play any games from them, you know that they do solid work. So I'm not gonna like I said,
I'm gonna say one thing that probably makes it understandable. How useful is the backwards shoot and jump?
I mean, if you do it right, it works. I mean, it's really, like I said, it's really not that bad of a game. Like I said, it's perfectly, like, okay, there's a few design choices that would have made the game better. Like, if they had a wall jump, the game would have been better.
As soon as you get to this screen, click the home button and
No. If you would like Mighty Number 9, like I said, I did a review on it. You can go and look it up if you're watching the video. If you're watching this podcast, it's on my channel, the Mighty Number 9 review. Mighty Number 9 is not that bad. Everyone keeps on saying it's the worst game ever.
It's not the worst. I'm not saying it's the worst, but it really has a lot of mess.
Yeah. It could be better, but it's not the worst game. It's definitely not the worst Mega Man game I've ever played. Look, you want to talk about a bad Mega Man game? Go play Mega Man Mega Man X8. That game is terrible.
X8? I thought it was X7.
X8, X9, X7.
I thought it was also X6.
X6, X7, those games are fucking terrible. I would rather play Mighty Number 9 all day, every day, than play Mega Man X. The last two Mega Man X games, the ones that tried to go 3D. Oh God, fuck
the reason why I said 7 is because, well, Tornado Onion and the Flame Hyenoid.
Yeah, just so before people are like, "This is a bad Mega Man game," it's like, no, I've played bad Mega Man games. You don't get to say Mighty Number 9 is the worst Mega Man game ever when you haven't played Mega Man X7 or Mega Man X6.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say. That Mighty Number 9 is right next to Mega Man X7.
No, it's better than that. Like I said, it's a C grade game. It basically Mighty Number 9 feels like a shittier version of. It feels like Inti Creates was trying to make a Mega Man 05, and then in the middle of it, they're like, "Oh, we can't use Zero. We got to use another character, and we got to take half the development team and go move them on something else." And that half of the development team had to finish the game, and they made Mighty Number 9. That's basically. It's like it's not as good as Inti Creates' normal work, but it's still not that bad either.
Okay, I can give you that.
Like I said, if I had to give it a grade, it's like a C. Mighty Number 9 is a C. It's a C grade game. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Like, you can play Mighty Number 9 and not be like, you won't feel mad that you played it. Like, there are Mega Man games that I've played where I was pissed that I was playing that game. Like every Mega Man game after Mega Man X4, I get angry that I'm playing that game because they're just not that good, in my opinion. Especially the later ones.
Well, it's not. It's less an opinion, more of a fact from within the entire Mega Man fan base.
So, I can't really, But I mean, like, people love to hate on shit, but they don't like. I mean, how much of the hate is legitimate or bandwagoning? That's my issue. I mean, I was one of those people, man. Keiji Inafune's been fucking up, and I was one of the people who made videos talking about how, like, he was supposed to make this game called KO and the King of Pirates. That didn't get made. He was supposed to make another game. That game didn't get made. The one game he did make under concept was Yaiba, which was a Ninja Gaiden spinoff, which kind of sucked. Like, so people shouldn't be surprised that this game's had a tumultuous development. But at the end of the day, it's not that bad of a game. I mean, now, Keiji Inafune and Concept fucked up with how they marketed it and what they, like, the actions they did with the money and just didn't do things right. I wouldn't be surprised if Inti Creates had people working on their off time to finish that game because they weren't getting paid for it. And anytime a developer has to do that because they don't want to mess up their good name, that's fucked up. But, is it the worst Mega Man game ever? Tall order. But we've belabored that. We're talking about spiritual successors. So a spiritual successor to, say, like a franchise that hasn't been seen for a while. So have at it.
All right. Since Jewel and Red Fox already made their examples.
I made a reverse one, mind you.
Because it's my turn. So because the Banjo-Kazooie franchise has been dormant for more than 10 years now.
Nuts and bolts doesn't count. So longer than that.
The original folks from the old Rareware decided to continue on with the series with a different new set of characters named Ukulele.
All right.
Having played the game myself this year, my reception for that game in general were mixed, at least.
Yeah.
On one hand, it plays and structures like a proper Banjo-Kazooie game. However, but gameplay-wise, it feels nothing like a Banjo-Kazooie game.
Fair enough.
I mean, because there were some directional movements and features that made it feel off for me. Having played the first two Banjo-Kazooie games. Followed by some questionable game design choices and some performance issues like frame rate drops.
Fair enough.
And by far the biggest issue I had with the game was the camera.
But that's every 3D platformer.
I mean, I didn't have this much of an issue with Super Mario Odyssey's camera.
I beg to differ. Every 3D platformer game, you have three enemies. The enemies, cheap ass enemy spawns, and the camera.
I was gonna say that it depends on the game, on the style of the game it's done, but oh god, 2 out of those 3 are definitely true.
The only 3D Mario game that I've ever played where the camera was not an issue was 3D World on the Wii U, and that's because like every area was like a fixed stage. You didn't really have to worry about the camera,
which is kind of funny.
Well,
That's because it plays like a 2D Mario game, but in three dimensions.
Yeah, it's an isometric 3D Mario game, which that's the only Mario game I played where 3D Mario game where the camera was not an enemy. But even Odyssey, and Odyssey is a gorgeous game, but that camera, like there's moons because the camera just you can't see it. You just gotta hope.
It's a nightmare.
Telling you, every 3D Mario game I played, Sunshine, Galaxy 2, 64, that camera has been just a motherfucker.
It seems like the curse of 3D roaming is going to stay with us forever.
No, well, I mean, when you have to do platforming, like Legend of Zelda, like you can do 3D in a Legend of Zelda because the pace in a Legend of Zelda is more methodical. You don't have to be so worried about camera placement. And like when there's something really important, the camera automatically pans over to it.
Plus, platforming is not the main focus in a Zelda game.
No. The only one where platforming was kind of a focus was Breath of the Wild, and they kind of helped you out a little bit with that because you have the handy dandy hang glider. So it's like I don't think I'm gonna make it to that platform. Oh wait, hang glider.
Just as long as you have the stamina for it.
Yeah, and somehow in the middle of thin air you can eat a sumptuous meal to replenish your stamina. I mean, I know it's game logic, so it's not supposed to make sense. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, but yeah, that's an issue in every 3D platformer, is the camera. That's just one of that's what dims the brakes, sadly. It's like fighting games, 2D fighting games have cheap ass final bosses who just have cheap ass movesets.
Guys!
Like M. Bison and Idol, Geese Howard.
Paris Elisa.
Yeah, just all those bastards. So, I mean, that's just, it goes with the territory. But I agree with you that I think that is a spiritual successor. Kenoshi, you have a spiritual successor you want to bring up?
A spiritual successor?
Yes.
Radiant Historia.
Spiritual successor, Chrono Trigger?
Chrono Trigger, yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's Chrono Cross Manifesto is just a bad dream we all had.
It's a Chrono Trigger sequel done on a budget because it doesn't have the massive open world to explore or anything like that. You're basically moving from screen to screen to screen to screen to screen to screen, and yet they managed to pack so much stuff into those screens that you got a full-on RPG, and the story is really deep, like astonishingly deep.
It's thick. Yeah. I'm actually getting pretty far into it, trying to do all the nodes, and boy, oh boy.
Yeah, some of those nodes you have to use the FAQ for. It's like, what the fuck? Where am I supposed to take this over here and do this with it?
Yeah.
I'm down, take this rose and shove it up your ass, lady.
I'm down to at least 90 nodes left.
Oh shit, you got some more stuff left to do. 90, yeah. Oh boy. But I got another spiritual successor for you guys. Okay. Now, anyone here remember ActRaiser?
ActRaiser?
ActRaiser was a game where it had two distinct functions. On one function, you had the action stages where you went around fighting monsters with your little statue man who had a sword and a shield, and you could beat the shit out of enemies and use magic and stuff like that. And then you had the strategy stages where you basically were a god who essentially, like, you had a city. Like you could tell the people in the temple where to build, and they'd build roads, and you could fight monsters with your little angel guy, shoot like arrows at enemies. And it was like a civilization thing. Like there was a population to deal with, and hunger and happiness. And you could hand down proclamations to your little people and have them do little things for you. It was a nice little game that had the dichotomy of action stage and the strategy portion. Like if you wanted to get upgrades for your health, you had to get it from
From maintaining your populace?
Yeah, from doing things for the population. If you wanted magic, like your people would basically go and unlock and destroy monster layers and stuff. And then once you got to a certain point in the civilization section, an area would open up that they couldn't handle. So then you'd have to send your little avatar statue man out in another action stage and fight someone else, kick someone else's ass, and rinse and repeat through multiple stages. But the thing is like, it was a nice little thing, you know, action stage strategy. And then they did ActRaiser 2, which had none of the strategy. And I mean, it's much better looking than the first ActRaiser, but it doesn't have that same level of
polish.
Well, charm of the action stage strategy. So there is a spiritual successor to ActRaiser, and it is called Dark Cloud. Because Dark Cloud basically has the same thing, except it's a 6th gen game. So the action stages are you're fighting your way through a labyrinth, a randomly generated labyrinth, multiple levels, getting to a boss. But along the way, you unlock these things called Ultimia spheres, which have bits and pieces of the land that you're in, wherever the dungeon is. So the first dungeon is like the Dungeon of the Wind, and it's in these caves and shit. So you have to build this town using these spheres. And the thing is like you have to rearrange the town in the most optimal way so that you can unlock everything. And as you unlock bits of the town, you unlock upgrades for your character to make yourself stronger, faster, hit harder, have more health, stuff like that. Stores that you can buy equipment. So, I mean, it's kind of like ActRaiser, but for the modern age. It rinse and repeat through multiple areas, leading up to an awesome boss fight because, you know, this is level 5, and they're good at that. So... I don't know.
So what was the big topic? Because I kind of missed that.
That is the big topic is
spiritual successors.
Spiritual successors. Yeah. This is the big topic is spiritual successors. Which here's the thing: Dark Cloud is meta because Dark Cloud itself has a spiritual successor because it had 2 games. First game was good, like the original ActRaiser. The second game, while much better looking than the first game, not quite as good as the first game. And so they made a sequel to Dark Cloud, a spiritual successor to Dark Cloud called Rogue Galaxy, which is essentially a spiritual successor to Dark Cloud. It's got a similar gameplay style to Dark Cloud, except it's more of an RPG. Like you have a party and characters you can control and stuff. And I love it. It's a really good game. I recently rebought a copy because my old copy got scratched to hell because it's a disc. But yeah, Dark Cloud is a fucking awesome game, and I think everyone should play it. Period. Everyone should play Dark Cloud. Everyone.
I remember my recommendation that is pretty much a silly one or mute one, depending on which way you look at it. Sonic, you might need to retire with how your own company is treating you, and let the crew of Freedom Planet take over for your task.
Yeah, that game feels like a Sonic game. It feels more like a 2D Sonic game. The only Sonic game that's close to it.
Funny thing is, it was originally a Sonic hack game until it became its own thing.
Yeah, the only game that comes close to that game, in my opinion, is Sonic Mania.
And that was created by whom?
Fans. Sadly, it's a shame when fans have to create your games.
And wasn't there an Earthbound spiritual successor called Captain Earth? Or
Citizens of Earth? Well, Citizens of Earth wasn't really an Earthbound successor. It was more like a homage to Earthbound. I'll tell you, Earthbound successor, Undertale. Undertale is a spiritual successor to Earthbound. Except, and here's the thing: the guy who made Undertale The first game he made was a ROM hack for Earthbound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, and it was also the first game to use Sans' signature theme song, Megalovania.
Funny that
you know how it
funny
goes.
it's been remixed to go there.
And you know how the song goes. If you've been on the internet lately.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna sing it for the sake of your own sanity.
Yeah, please don't. But yeah, I am in fact a I mean, I like spiritual successors when they're done well. Like, I mean, I like Harvest Moon spiritual successor, Stardew Valley. It's like Harvest Moon, except it's got fighting in it. You can like go into 2 dungeons and fight your way down. Well, 3, well, 2.5, and well, no, 3.5. Fight your way down to the bottom level and get all types of cool shit. It's kind of nice. So, we've got a little bit of time left. So, anyone have any free topics they wanna cover before we wrap things up?
Let's see.
I did bring up a question that I'm not sure if you guys want to work with, but that's on you guys.
Oh, go ahead.
This is probably something that is ancient, but makes me wonder. What is it, Pinks?
Oh, yes, there is one gaming news I want to bring up before we wrap things up. Coral Magazines has an official name a Pokemon move contest for this upcoming move. It's going to be for this one move that's going to be used for the upcoming Sword and Shield game, and it closes next month. The rules are that the name has to be no more than 8 characters long, using katakana, hiragana, or English characters. The move is described to be a steel type move that's special based with a base power of 140, and the effect is the equivalent of the recoil moves like Double Edge, where after hitting the opponent, it reduces the user's HP by 50%, meaning
God damn.
half.
Well, let me think. 8 characters.
Welcome back. Ooh, my ears.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what to call it.
I mean, because of the steel move, it has to be metal based. I'm thinking the name has to be metal based and no less than 8 characters.
How about bulldoze?
That move has already been used.
You're right. Yeah. How about Twin Blade? That's not 8 characters. Never mind. Twiblade? No.
Dual Blade.
Yeah, Dual Edge. Yeah, that's
Dual Edge sounds more like a physical move than a special move.
No, if it's learned by, it's a special move and it's learned by steel types. If you have a steel type, it's sword and shield, so it's a sword. It's a dual-edged attack, which does massive damage to your opponent, but also does damage to yourself. Like Double Edge, except it's a sword. So dual. I'm just spitballing, man. I don't know.
It's ideas.
Right. So Soul Edge is at least 8 characters, but I don't know if it counts the space, the empty space that separates it.
Well, dual edge could be one word. Dual edge.
True.
8 letters. Or soul edge. That'd be even more appropriate.
Either one will work.
Yeah. Soul edge might be more appropriate since it does damage to you and your opponent.
And that's pretty much it. How about Jewel? What's your news, Jewel?
My news is basically me was thinking about what was it? Oh yeah, thinking about what people think of scores in video games. Like, does it even matter anymore?
I mean, how can I put this?
I mean, they tend to be so vague, and too vague to showcase the actual game's presentation and performance.
Here's what I'm going to say. I think that scores can be useful when they are more than just scores. Like, if your score is just, hey, I got...
There's not really a lot of scores out there that are real memorable.
I mean, if scores are only there to basically brag about some shit, I think they're useless. But if they serve a purpose, like, you get a score, it corresponds to cash that you can use to buy stuff. That's cool. I think if it's just straight up, you're just using... your score to do X, Y, or Z, I think that kind of brings it down a little bit. But hey, I'm just some guy.
Yeah.
Just some guy. That's who I am.
It works.
Yeah. So... anyone have any other things they want to go with before we? Anything else they want to bring up before we wrap things up?
Oh, sorry about that.
Well,
You must have your hands on a soundboard, man.
Yeah, I got my hands on a soundboard finally. I've been wanting to get a soundboard for a while. To make a soundboard. I haven't quite figured everything out yet, but once I do, the show ought to be more lively, or maybe I'll start doing my own regular cast.
You'll be out of control, man.
Yeah. Remember this? We are live here with Coffee 2K.
I'm just gonna say this right now. I always really hated that.
That reminds me of another podcast I used to watch. I forgot the name of it.
I mean, I have never liked soundboard. Unless it's like really good. Like, if you have if you're doing a soundboard and it's like friggin' like Samuel L. Jackson, Correctamundo. Like, Samuel L. Jackson is the great soundboard, but if it's not Samuel L. Jackson or like Arnold Schwarzenegger, fuck you. Get your ass to Maz.
Gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, if it's something like that, then it works. But if it's not, it just kind of,
Yeah. Forgot which one it was.
Yeah, soundboards are just one of those things where it's like sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't.
It depends on what you got.
Yeah. So, anyone have anything else before they want to say before we wrap things up?
Well, I'm good.
All right, then.
Hold on, I got
English, motherfucker. Do you speak it? Yes. Then you know what I'm saying.
What?
There you go.
Say what again? Say what one more goddamn time? I dare you. I double dog dare you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
What?
And all I have to say to EA and all the third-party publishers before we sign out is
You know what else would have worked with that? Arnold Schwarzenegger's, hey, fuck you.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about this soundboard is I can make custom sounds, so I don't have to. I'm not bound to,
Just the sounds that you put on there already.
Yeah.
the sounds that are pre-loaded. So yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. So
if you guys have any sound clip suggestions, hit me up on Discord or wherever, and I'm trying to see what I can do.
man, I told you can't go wrong with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Samuel L. Jackson, Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon. I'm getting too old for this shit. Basically, anytime you have a yelling black guy, the chief from Beverly Hills Cop, not the white chief, the one in Detroit who's just like yelling at Axel Foley. He's always a good one because he cusses his ass off.
Oh, the soldier from or the general or whoever, the sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that's right. Numbnuts. Arlie Ermy. Arlie Ermy is just, oh man, that dude curses you out and makes you feel bad. It's like, god damn, I understand why Vincent D'Onofrio shot your ass. But spoiler alert. But that movie is older than some of the people watching, so fuck it.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything they want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Oh, one more thing. These people who keep talking about the Epic Store.
Gotcha, bitch.
Nope.
Thank you.
Here's what. Okay, fine then. This is the last time I'm going to say anything about the Epic Store. Okay. If you don't like it, don't spend your money there. Like, there's games I really want on the Epic Store. Outer Worlds, Borderlands 3, but I'm not gonna get them on the Epic Store. So you know what? I'm just gonna fucking wait. It's really simple. Calm the fuck down. Chill the fuck out. There, just don't buy it. Shit, you can go someplace else.
Yeah, that's how I feel. If you don't like it, well, just buy it somewhere else.
But anyway, that's the end of the podcast. No one else has pimped out anything they wanted to pimp out. So
English, motherfucker, do you speak it? Yes.
I love that. What? Is what a foreign language? Is what another country? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? I'm sorry. Pulp Fiction has so many quotable lines.
So many, it's not even funny at times.
Don't be a square, Daddy-O. He didn't have to throw the motherfucker out a window. I'm about to, and the best line, the best threat ever. I'm about to get medieval on your ass. Anyway, yes, this is the end of the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. You can reach me, Mr. Red Fox, on. Oh, sorry. Trinell83 has a question. Would Ever Oasis be a spiritual successor to ActRaiser 2? You build stores and you go into dungeons to fighting monsters. Actually, Ever Oasis is a spiritual successor to Secret of Mana. Not the original Secret of Mana games, but the later ones that had that mechanic where you could like especially like the Secret of Mana, the last true Secret of Mana game on a console, which was Secret of Mana for the PS1, Legend of Mana.
Mm-hmm.
That game is very much like you build stores, you build a world, you stock the stores. There's like it's way deep. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, you can reach me. Sorry, a little bit there. You can reach me at mrredfoxbsbuster at gmail.com or at Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. There's a space between the Matthew and the Wesley. So yeah. And of course, you can always find us on Discus. So great place to talk with like-minded people. It's a great community. Always go there. They're great. They know how to get shit done. And they have a pretty chill attitude, which I like. That being said, that's the end of the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. I'm gonna steal a quote from Shadow Fox. Do you play games to have fun or to impress other people? I don't know about you, but I play games just to impress other people because fuck having fun. With that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Good night.
And have responsibly.